with Jeffrey Smith, brought to you by the Geary Community Schools Corporation.
All right, everybody, we are back. It's a wonderful Friday, mainly because it is Friday. It, of course, is the 26th of January, 2024, and this is Wake Up GI with Jeffrey Smith. And as promised, we are continuing our conversations with some comics this week who are descending on the city of Gary to kind of bring some very high-level form of entertainment into our own backyards. We were very fortunate to have our guy Zeke visit us in November when they were doing the inaugural concert series. These guys tour on Baltimore, the East Coast, D.C., and all that, but they had the idea that they were going to go and come to Gary and give us an opportunity to enjoy some of that great comedy that they're doing and expose us to some comedic legends. And when I say legends, I'm having the privilege of talking to these guys and growing up watching BET Comic View, Def Comedy Jam, and all that. Sometimes because it's out of sight, out of mind, you really don't appreciate. You're like, so you were that guy, or you were that guy that was hanging out with Donnie Simpson, or you were that guy that was doing that. And so I've been very privileged to be sitting here and meeting a couple of those individuals. And so today we're going to continue that. Once again, before we do, I want to remind our listeners that the event is going to take place tonight at the Lofted Deke Ultra Lounge that's located at 752 Broadway, beautiful Gary, Indiana. And of course, the doors open at 7, showtime starts at 8, $20 early bird ends. Well, I believe that's already over. $30 general admission. Pay at the door. You can get tickets. We're going to let Zeke time to tell us about where you can get tickets. But before we do that, I want to introduce Zeke, who's in studio, but we've got a comedian on the phone. We're going to get to you in just a second, but I do believe we've got David Carter on the phone, so I'm very much looking forward to talking to him. So first, I want to go to my guy. What's going on, Mr. Zeke?
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Mic on. That's how it works. Yeah.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Yeah, go introduce yourself to the audience again, for those who don't know you. Obviously, you're Gary native.
Born and raised here in Gary, Indiana, L-Dub grad, class of 84, whoop, whoop.
He's doing that L-Dub stuff in here. It's still black and gold. I'm Belt, so it's all good. And then, of course, we've got Mr. Carter on the phone. Thank you for calling in, man. Where are you calling from, first of all, so I can apologize for how early we got you up?
Oh, that's all good. I'm on the road headed to Gary right now, man. 2 hours away. I'm on my way.
All right. Looking forward to seeing you. So there you go. Hope you're not driving.
Oh, no, I'm in the
All right, absolutely. So we'll go back to Zeke. I want you to kind of tell us a little bit about, as I said, we talked to you in November when you first shared the idea and how it kind of came together. If you don't mind, kind of go back and encapsulate kind of what made you say that I want to bring this back to Gary. I'm working with comics, and I got into how you started this. It kind of just happened. But you ended up getting them promoted, putting together shows, and you ended up thinking about putting together this show that brought Gary into the circuit. So if you can, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. With the new administration coming in, happy birthday, Mayor Melton.
Absolutely.
There's a resurgence going on here in Gary, Indiana, and I wanted to be a part of it.
Okay.
And one of the ways of being a part of it is doing what I love to do.
Right.
Comedy. Laughter.
Yeah.
Mental health.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
And it was a great vehicle for me there. I figured I'd bring it here.
Now, you weren't always into comedy. I mean, you didn't do this for a living.
No.
Real quick, tell us what you did, because
Sure.
it's a great story.
Sure. I went to the Marine Corps, and then got out of the Marine Corps, and I got into the car business.
Yeah.
I was the guy you loved to hate. I was the guy who told you your car payments.
Yeah.
You either loved me or hated me.
You were a used car salesman?
I was everything. Everything in the car business.
Right.
Everything, from a porter to general manager.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, and you did that for 20 years or so?
29 years.
29 years.
29
and then,
years.
One day something happened, and next thing you know, you fall into a comedy situation. How'd that go?
My man Mike Brooks. Shout out Mike Brooks.
Yeah.
He tricked me into doing what I'm doing now. And
Yeah.
it's been a great ride. Great
We're just
journey.
putting together shows,
Absolutely.
linking comics together, and just kind of making this thing happen and helping keeping the dream go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so obviously, as you told us previously, it's led you on a wonderful ride. You've met wonderful people. We've also had the opportunity, because I was just picking your brain. We talked about some dark side aspects of the comedy business, and I appreciate for you sharing that with me, because as I said, I'm not a comedian or anything like that, but I've been a fan of comedy ever since I was a little boy. I'm somewhat of a fanboy, you could say. And so to be able to talk with guys like yourself who go out on the front lines and put together these shows and work with comics. I appreciate that. Let's go over, of course, to our guest on the phone, Mr. David Carter, who's on the road right now, a couple of hours away from the city of Gary. Thank you for calling in. Tell us a little bit about your background. First and foremost, how long you've been doing this, and if you don't mind, tell us how you got in comedy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I've been doing comedy now for over 20 years, man.
Wow.
I got getting it in. Ed became real close friends, through the process and through the journey. To both our paths towards comedy, and like I said, 20 years in the game.
Right.
I love what I do. And how I got into comedy, man, was through my sister.
Yeah.
She used to always go to comedy shows, to go see Bernie Mac and all the big heavy hitters.
Yes.
I never liked comedy. I'm not gonna lie, I never liked it. I had a friend of mine who got killed, and so once he got killed, in order for her to keep me insane, keep my mind together.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, go with me to the comedy show. I said, I don't want to go to no comedy show.
Right.
She took me to a comedy show. I went to go see Bernie Mac and them. I was like, man, I fell in love with it. I was like, oh man, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I had the buzz. Ever since then.
Nice. And we're talking with David Carter. He's on the phone right now on his way to Gary, Indiana to perform tonight. I've had the privilege of talking to a number of comics on the show, and I, talked to one of your colleagues who's going to be sharing the stage with you tonight, Timmy Hall, the other day. And as I said, I always just like to pick you all's brains because, in full disclosure, as I always like to say, I personally think comedy, and I love art. I love all art. I love movies. I love film. I love music. I love the theater. But I honestly believe this in my heart of hearts, ever since I was a little boy, that some of the rawest form of art is comedy, because you're sitting up there naked on the stand. I'm talking about stand-up comedy first and foremost. Stand-up. I want to differentiate. You're standing up on a stage pretty much naked, just a microphone, and you've got to kind of elucidate, kind of get a certain emotion, which is laughter, out of complete strangers. And there's no feed, there's nobody up there with you. It's just you and them, and you're trying to get a guttural reaction. And so, what is it like? I mean, what was it like for you to go up on that stage for the first time? Because, everybody can't do it. I know there are a lot of people that think they're funny, a lot of people that have always maybe thought that they can go and do an open mic and things like that. But I've talked to people that have tried it, and it's not as easy as it looks. And so, what was it like for you?
Oh, man, it was stressful.
Yes.
I got booed. I've been booed, man, so many times. It was crazy, but I kept going. I kept fighting. I kept hitting that stage. And then you would get the butterflies and stuff.
Yes.
And then once you get that first laugh, oh my God, it's like the heavens open up. You're like, oh my God, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It just makes you want to keep going, man. That competitive spirit.
Yeah.
It's like a competitive. It's very competitive too, because you on that stage and they looking at you.
Yes.
At them, and you're like, okay, here we go. Let's do it.
That's what.
You won, and you just start going in. So that's the beautiful thing about it, man. I love it. I wouldn't give it up for the world, man.
No, absolutely, and I can tell it in your voice. And another thing, and I was asking Timmy about this a couple of days ago when he was on the show, and not trying to pit obviously generations against generations, but I always like to just pick the brains of people like yourself who've been doing it 20 years or more, because we're starting to see a shift, at least from the outside looking in comedy, right? I mean, I always use the pandemic as the example in which we had pretty much people stuck in their homes. There was a big demand for content, and then all of a sudden it became this little subcategory where you start to see these YouTube comedians pop out. Everybody's doing these little edited 5 to 7 minute sets, and now all of a sudden you're seeing guys or gals or groups of people who are getting all these hits and likes. Now they're being pushed out there as true comedians. This is the new phase of comedy, and this is this and this is that. And I don't begrudge people their success, and I'm not trying to get into people's wallets or anything like that, but I want to ask some of the people who I say pay your dues, because as I was talking about with Timmy, it seems to me that what gets lost in that process of these internet comedians is the ability to get out here in a club, on a stage, and be able to manipulate and understand and pivot in front of an audience. Because sometimes you might have a joke in your arsenal and you're like, you know what? This joke probably isn't going to work here. I'm going to go to my other one. And that way, because you understand that crowd. Well, if you're sitting here looking at your cell phone stick and you're over here writing jokes and everybody around you thinks it's funny, you don't understand that. You don't appreciate that. And that's why I think the disconnect is going with some of these people who are jumping from the internet and thinking immediately they can come into the club. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. One thing for stage and fake it. It won't allow you to.
Yes.
So if you got it, it's gonna show.
Yeah.
As far as like, yeah, no doubt. And as far as like the internet, a lot of internet comedians, nothing but props. You know, they out there.
Yeah.
They try to do their thing. They get their feet wet. You know, they in these clubs working out. But it's trust me, it's a process. You're not gonna cheat the game. You can't cheat it.
Yes.
It doesn't allow you to cheat the game.
Yeah.
And like I said, you see a lot of them that like the internet.
Yeah.
And they some of them blow up. They do good. You see some of them fall to the wayside because they know that faith is the truth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you for saying that. David Carter is on the phone with us. As I said, we're going to talk more about this Graphic City Comedy Night tonight over at the Loft, the Deke Ultra Lounge. I guess I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to weigh in. Timmy did about what's going on in the comedy world. You know, obviously Cat Williams was kind of the big deal. But I want to also ask you about some of the unwritten rules, kind of going back to what we were talking about in this new form of comedian that's coming out. Once again, not being a comedian myself, but reading about so many comedians, the George Carlins, the Eddie Murphys, Richard Pryor's, Red Fox, going all the way back to Slappy and all those guys in the 60s, there was always a gentleman's code, and even a gentlewoman's code. I'm bringing Joan Rivers into it, is that when you all pass each other in the clubs, because you all are working hard in the circuits, eventually you're going to come across each other. The one thing you don't do is lift a guy's material. You know, I mean, you didn't have it in writing, you didn't do all that. But you just kind of didn't do it because not only would it ostracize you from the community, it just was looked down upon. Now we're starting to see in this new controversy, you know, with Cat Williams out here speaking about that, it appears that is, you know, that's not honored anymore. It appears that people, men and women, some of these young people, maybe even some of the older ones, don't have that integrity. Somebody sees some stuff that you're doing and maybe you don't have the platform like Timmy was telling us the other day. You know, some guys nowadays say, guess what, I'm on TV, you're not, so I'm going to go out here and put it out, and it's going to be like you never ever said it. People are going to remember me for that joke. Is that becoming a problem?
Yes, it is. It's becoming a huge problem because it's been happening so much. It's just crazy. We really don't want to speak to anybody about the material.
Yeah.
Because you feel like as a writer, you can just write some more, but that's not even the point.
Right.
The point is that you know I say this all the time. You know this is my joke, and I've been writing it doing it for years, and you just come thinking like you've been saying it forever.
Right.
So it's becoming a huge problem to do that, and people, there's been some issues about that with the real people. I mean, like coming to fix with stuff. Actually,
I can imagine.
because people really take their product and take their merchandise seriously.
Yes.
Their jokes is their merchandise.
Absolutely.
People really take it seriously. They don't like that. It's rough out here like that. But you gotta keep writing. You gotta keep writing. You write enough a day. You know that joke that you got that someone else took. Trust me, by that next week you'll have 3 more. But you still don't like it because they're taking it.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't care if I've got 1,000 jokes in my book. If somebody takes one without my permission, that's your intellectual property. That's yours. That's your, exactly. So I appreciate that. Zeke, weigh in on this, please.
I feel the exact same way. I mean, the era that I came into comedy basically straddles the internet world. So
Right.
I've seen it my entire time in the comedy world.
Yeah.
The internet comic that's funny in skit situations,
Right.
and it doesn't translate well to the stage.
Yeah.
To the stage, simply like Dave said, the stage does not lie.
It doesn't lie.
You can't hide behind that mic. It's,
Yeah.
it's only so wide.
Yeah.
You can't hide behind it.
And there are people looking at you.
There are people looking at you,
Yeah.
and the person who's able to not only tell the joke, but to be themselves on stage telling the joke.
Right.
That's the key.
Yeah.
It's not an act. That's who that person
It's exactly. That's
at
why I
that
think
particular
it's so-
moment
Yeah.
is.
That's why I think it's so raw, and that's why I think, you know, and you and I talked about this, it was why I think comedy, the one thing with everything that's going on in our culture, cancel culture, and, you know, you can call it what you want, and I'm not even asking either of you to weigh in politically, but the one thing that I hope never happens, and I hope it doesn't, and Dave Chappelle is fighting a good fight, whether you like him or not, and that is to not make comedy a safe space. I mean, comedy has always been a place in which, as a person going in buying a ticket, you know it might be uncomfortable. The comedian might say something that you're like, okay, I can't believe he went there. But he or she is in that protected space because that's comedy. And, you know, there's some things you can't put in movies. There's some things you can't put on records. There's some things you can't write in books. But in a comedic show, in a comedy, it's so raw because that person is unveiling themselves. They're bringing up situations. and it's just it's a whole different space. And so I want to ask you, David, are you worried about that being taken away as we start to get these kind of censors or this, people out here? You see them coming after Dave Chappelle, for instance. They want him to put a certain demographic off limits. They don't want him talking about it anymore. He refuses to stop because he's not necessarily beholden to anybody. But what about the comedians that don't have as much power as he has?
Yeah, we've definitely been censored a lot today. And now the gatekeepers are really now the owners of the club.
Yeah.
You go in there sort of like, hey, you can't say this, man. You can't say this. You like, but my set. It's like, man, you got to take that out.
Yeah.
For tonight. But then that becomes one club standard, then another club standard. And before you know it, you're like, man, I can't say it anywhere.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because that freedom of speech is real. And you've been censored a lot by the clubs and the promoters and things like that. Or they won't let you work here because, they don't want to hear that kind of material. It's like, wow, this is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but a lot of the comics, we just say, look, this is our set, man. You want to take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And when a lot of comics stick together, they're kind of like, all right, come on, we'll work it out.
Exactly.
See, and the way my mind works, that creates an opportunity for me.
Yeah, because I want you to weigh in on
That creates an opportunity for me because now I need to find an audience who wants to see underground comedy.
Thank you. That, and I would argue, let's just be honest, I'm dating myself, but I remember when there was
underground comedy.
When Def Comedy Jam first came up, okay, because you had Eddie Murphy out there. He was kind of still the reigning guy, but obviously his predecessors were Red Fox and Richard Pryor. But Eddie Murphy was still out there. He was more or less getting into music. But you started having these comics out here, and somebody took an opportunity, and the Def Comedy Jam was as underground as it got, because you were like, who are all these guys? A lot of them were coming from Chicago and Baltimore. That's where I was seeing, because I was kind of addicted to it. Then this guy, Martin Lawrence, became the host. Then they started running Chris Tucker out here and all these kind of guys. And that was absolutely underground because Caroline's Comedy Store and all them weren't putting those guys in there. I mean, Jerry Seinfeld and Damon Wayans, they were kind of the ones working that circuit. The Def Comedy Jam was the underground.
Def Comedy Jam was the culture.
Yes.
It was the culture.
Yeah.
It was a force in itself.
It was. Whoever thought of putting that, yeah. It blew up.
It blew up.
People have been looking for that kind of comedy for a long time because they couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And they got it. It was like it just blew up. It took off.
No, you know what? Because I think back at that time, and it was just a perfect storm because I was just starting college, and I'm at Hampton, and so I'm on the East Coast. You got Howard, you got Morgan State and Baltimore, and what the Def Comedy Jam allowed was for you all, comedians and producers, to spill over onto our campuses where you had a ready-made audience that was looking for you. Next thing you know, there were circuits created. I mean, you had promoters going all up and down the East Coast, down to North Carolina A&T, going down to Spelman, Clark, Atlanta. I mean, it was a beautiful thing.
Correct.
That was developed out of kind of like a vacuum. And so, looking back, those were some great times. We're talking with Dave Carter and, of course, my guy Zeke, who brought this wonderful event here to Gary. Doors open at 7, starts at 8 tonight. Before we get into that, I want to ask you, because I've been picking the comics brain. You said something very cool the last time we talked. Bring me into the promotion, because one of the things I've always heard as it relates in particular to comedians, because you don't really have a lot of nightclub singers in that kind of circuit anymore, is dealing with these owners. I mean, that can be a very surly business, right? I mean, you got guys, you always hear the stories about guys who get stiffed, and things like that. In particular, comedians who come in there kind of naked. They don't have a business manager or an agent who's pretty much savvy with how the environment works, and they can find themselves out of luck at the end of the night or running around here being promised. How, have you been able to talk to young promoters that you've come across and they've just sat back and said, how do I make sure that I go out and not only do I not screw myself over where I don't get paid, but obviously being a promoter, you want to get a good reputation with the performer. Because if you ask guys to give up their time to get on your set or on your show and you're promised some things and then you get screwed and then they get screwed, you're the one that's sometimes going to take the lump. So what would you give to promoters out there who are even thinking about getting in this?
Well, if you want to be a promoter, you have to have a stomach for it. You have to be willing to literally eat last.
Yeah. Eat last.
Literally eat last.
It's for the betterment of the business. Pay your guys first.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Sometimes you don't even eat.
Period.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
But the rewards of if you're doing it for the money, it's for the wrong reason.
Right.
I do it because I like Dave said, this truly is mental health for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And so you're helping people out. This gives an opportunity to vent. As Dave alluded to, he was in a situation where somebody close to him got killed. And so this helped his mind.
You don't know how many times I hear someone tell myself or tell a comic, hey, I'm so glad I came to this show tonight.
Yeah.
We give 2 hours of mental freedom.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
Laughter is universal. We all laugh in the same language.
Yeah, we do.
So if something's funny, it's funny. There's some comics that don't even talk. Charlie Chaplin made a legendary.
Yeah.
Didn't talk.
Right.
Again, laughter is universal.
I like that. So let's talk about this event tonight. Once again, it is at the Loft de Deke Ultra Lounge, 752 Broadway, Beautiful Gear, Indiana. They do have VIP luxury sections if they're still available.
There are a couple still available.
Okay, you can text 219-951-9456. Once again, that's 219-951-9456. Let's get into this. Talk about this show. You got Timmy Hall, Kevin Anthony, and of course our guy David Carter on the phone. What is this show? What is the theme of this show? What's the What's the feel of this show?
The theme of this show is Friday Night Funny.
Okay.
It's Friday night. We've been cold.
Yes.
It's the first break we get.
Yeah.
These cats, these are world-class comics, are coming out to entertain.
Yeah.
You will laugh. You will not be. You won't be attacked.
Yeah.
We don't have shows like that.
Yeah. Insult comedy.
Exactly. Good grown folk fun.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I want to ask you, putting this bill together, obviously, I would assume the number one thing is availability. But when you have that luxury and you have a good repertoire with comedians out there that you've worked with in the past and that are willing to make themselves available to you, what then goes into putting together the perfect set? I think a lot of us, if I go back and I think recently of a marquee set, you pull out the Kings of Comedy. Now, it wasn't just because these guys were all kind of big name. They looked like they were kind of prepared to play off each other. There didn't appear to be any arguing over who went first, second, third, or fourth. And and they played off each other. It was an entire set, yet individual. And so when I see a marquee set like this, I think the very same thing. There's some 3 top guys here who are really working together in the big scheme of things as the product, but they're doing their own thing, but they're also playing off each other. Mm-hmm. So how did you put this together, and how's that working?
Well, it's an art.
Yeah.
It's an art.
Yeah.
You want to have a show that flows.
Right.
Continuity.
Because there's some, all due respect, there might be some guys or gals who just don't fit into it that night.
Exactly. Well, every show doesn't fit together.
Yeah.
But that in itself is comedy.
Yeah.
Every comic is different.
Yeah.
Every comic's material is different.
Yeah.
So if you can pick and choose or
right.
assemble that feel for it, it works.
It's like being a good offensive coordinator or a
Correct.
manager. Absolutely.
Correct.
Let me go to you,
Correct.
David. What's it like being that comic? Because after 20 plus years of being on bills and getting on stages, you've got a lot of experience. You know a lot of the people who have been in the business. You're still meeting people who are coming into the business. Has there ever been times in that where you're just kind of like, you know what, I don't know if I want to go on after this person, or I don't really want to, I just don't know if, no disrespect for this person, but his act or her act ain't like my act, and I don't really want to kind of cross these two. Has there ever been those kind of situations?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But that's a part of the business. You're going to go in front of people that that you're like a lot better than.
Yeah.
After people that you shouldn't be going after.
Right.
That's a part of the business, and sometimes that's the lineup for, like someone who's either unknowing promoter, like, no, you just don't go first. I should be going last.
Yeah.
Oh, you should have went last. You're right. We know what we do, so we know how we play our position. That's all we play our position.
I like the way you put it. Go ahead, Zeke, please.
And Dave, folks, just so Dave himself is a unicorn. He not only is a comic, he is on the other side also. He does promotions also. He has a company called Section 8 Comedy.
Nice. Section 8 Comedy.
So he gets to feel the pain of comedy, the pain of success and failure on all ends.
I'm still laughing at the name, Section 8 Comedy.
Section 8 comedy stands for success, courage, commitment,
Yeah.
reform,
Yeah.
integrity, optimistic, noble. That's what it stands for.
I like that. I like that. I like that. That's funny. Yeah, real quick, because the reason I was asking about the order, I just real quick, I heard a comic tell this story a while ago that he was doing like a bill. I don't know if it was like a college homecoming. It was some kind of like impromptu. Somebody said, "Hey man, you want to come on and do the show?" Now this guy was a professional, but this person putting it together had all these other people coming in as fillers, wannabe comics and things. So he talked about this story. He came on after this one guy who basically was doing nothing but shooting whipped cream and doing all this kind of stuff. The stage was absolutely the grossest thing ever by the time he got up there. And so he's over here doing his set, and he's trying not to bust his you-know-what and all this stuff with all this water balloons and crazy crap that this one guy was doing, spitting liquor and lighting it with them. It was just insane. And so that's why I wanted to know about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. There are things too not to do. There truly is protocol. This is a science.
Guys, first I want to thank both of you all for taking time out of this busy morning to hang with me and indulge me, because as you can tell, I'm big fans. I want to go to you, Zeke. Let's give us some more information about how to get tickets and times again. And then before you go, I want you to talk it up and let us know what to expect. I'm gonna start with David because he's on the phone traveling. So go ahead, Dave. Tell the audience, give them your pitch about what they're gonna experience tonight.
Yeah, let me tell you something right now. Come to the love. You got my man Timmy Hall. You got my man Kevin Anthony, David Carter. Y'all gonna have a ball. I guarantee it. Listen, if you come out tonight and we ain't funny, he ain't gonna give you your money back. I'm just playing.
he ain't giving him.
This rascal here.
The show gonna be fire. You got at least 50 to 60 years of comedy coming to your town right now.
Yeah.
In the business, over 60 years, we're gonna set the place off. Promise you, come on out, get your tickets. It's going down. Ready?
All right, David. Hey, I appreciate you, man. And next time we're gonna make sure that I can get you in the studio so I can really pick your brain. But I appreciate you taking time. Thank you. There you go, Mr. David Carter. We want to thank him. Thank you for getting him calling in this morning. And you, my dude, I mean, I really want to appreciate you for doing this and for wanting to be a part of it and for proving that you can go out here and have your successes. And number one, here's what you really prove, and that's the theme of this show, is that you never get to a point where you can't go out here and do something else and follow your dream and run with it. So shout out to that, because that's our main thing that we talk about in the show. But the second thing is to do it in a manner that you've done where you're not only representing it with class, but you're thinking about us and bringing something back. And so we want to thank you for that. Go ahead, my friend.
Not a problem. Tonight, Graphite City Comedy.
Yeah.
Friday Night Funny at the Loft Attic Ultra Lounge. 752 Broadway. You can go get your tickets on Eventbrite, or you can go to graphitecitycomedy.com.
Yeah.
Tickets only $30. We have tables.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, my special tonight.
Yes.
If you buy 3 seats, table seat 4, buy 3, 4 attend.
Mm-hmm.
Buy 3 seats, 4 attend.
Wow. 3 seats, 4 games. So 1 get in free.
Correct.
There you go. All right. I like that. Throwing a little something out there last minute. That's why you're the producer, because you can pivot very quickly. I like your style. All right, tell you what, we're going to get ready to take a break. When we come back, we'll get ready to get more show. You're listening to Wake Up GI with Jeffrey Smith right here.